It's hard to imagine a better example of someone playing with pain than what Larry Bird did in that Pacers series, or for the entire NBA season for that matter.
The 1990 matchup between the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers wasn't just another regular season game, it became a moment etched in NBA history. And the reason? Chuck Person's big mouth.
Person can talk some trash to Larry Bird now. He scored the last 16 points.
Chuck and Larry down low, greeting one another once again.
And Person and
Before the game, Chuck Person, nicknamed the Rifleman, couldn't resist trash-talking Larry Bird. Brimming with confidence, he boldly told reporters he would shoot the bird out of the sky. But if there's one thing you don't do in basketball, it's underestimate Larry Bird, especially when you come at him with trash talk. As the game heated up, Bird wasted no time proving why he was untouchable. At one point, Person was sitting on the bench, watching helplessly. Bird caught the ball right in front of him, drained a three-pointer without hesitation, and turned to Person, saying the unforgettable words, "Merry Christmas." But Larry didn't stop there. He dominated the Pacers with relentless shooting, humiliating Person at every opportunity. Every shot was a statement, and every glance was a reminder of who the real sharpshooter was. Bird finished the game with a performance so dominant, it left no room for doubt. Chuck Person's trash talk had backfired spectacularly. This wasn't just a win for Bird and the Celtics, it was a masterclass in mental and physical dominance. Chuck Person might have been the Rifleman, but that night, Larry Bird was the ultimate marksman, and that was just the beginning. The Chuck Person incident was only one of 7 times when NBA players made the mistake of disrespecting Larry Bird and instantly regretted it. Make sure you stick around for all 7 stories that prove why Larry Bird is one of the most feared competitors in NBA history. Now, let's rewind to one of his most intense rivalries. 1987 Eastern Conference Finals was one of the most heated matchups in NBA history. The Boston Celtics, led by Larry Bird, faced off against the Detroit Pistons, the infamous bad boys of basketball. And while the Pistons were known for their physical play, Dennis Rodman decided to take things to another level, off the court.
And the looks on the players' faces tell you what game this is.
The Pistons had built their reputation on rough fouls and mental intimidation. And as one of their enforcers, a young Dennis Rodman embraced that role wholeheartedly. But after Boston narrowly escaped with a victory in Game 5,
they're going to give the ball to Detroit. Bird steals it. Johnson, layup, Boston, 1 second left.
Rodman decided to do something that not even the Pistons' physicality could achieve. He came after Larry Bird with his words.
Let's be real. It's probably the first time in Dennis Rodman's life that a white guy tuned him up on the basketball court.
Frustrated by the loss, Rodman claimed Bird was overrated, and then came the line that would ignite a firestorm. Rodman said, "He's not God. He ain't the best player in the NBA, not to me. He's white."
If Larry was a black guy, he just would be a regular old basketball player. And I didn't realize what I said.
His comments weren't just disrespectful. They were incendiary, sparking outrage across the league. But Rodman was about to learn the hard way that when it comes to Larry Bird, the only thing overrated is the idea that you can disrespect him and get away with it. It didn't end there. Isaiah Thomas, the Pistons' leader, added fuel to the fire by doubling down on Rodman's remarks during a post-game interview.
So if you can... We lost the game. I got accused of being a racist, and I'm bad guy now.
And if that wasn't enough, he went even further, saying that if Bird were black, he'd be just another good guy.
A very, very good basketball player. I think he's an exceptional talent, but I'd have to agree with Rodman. If he was black, he'd be just another good guy.
Thomas would later apologize, but the damage had been done. Larry Bird's legacy was being publicly questioned, not by fans or analysts, but by fellow players. But here's the thing about Larry Bird, he never needed to respond with words. His response came through his performance, and in Game 7 of that series, Bird delivered one of the most dominant playoff performances of his career.
Under 10 offensive rebounds. Bird comes back and hits another. 2 minutes to go in the period, and Bird gets the...
With everything on the line, Bird dropped an incredible 37 points, grabbed 9 rebounds, and dished out 9 assists. He was unstoppable, hitting tough fadeaways, threading perfect passes, and leading the Celtics to a hard-fought 117-114 victory over the Pistons. Every moment was a reminder of why he was the reigning MVP. Rodman and Thomas could talk all they wanted, but Bird had already silenced the critics where it mattered most, on the court.
And Walton gave it a try for a minute.
This moment didn't just secure Bird's place in the finals, it cemented his legacy as a player whose greatness could never be questioned. Rodman eventually backtracked on his comments, and Isaiah Thomas even apologized to Bird personally, but the controversy left a mark. It became one of the most talked about moments in NBA history, and it only made Bird's dominance more undeniable. If you think Dennis Rodman learned the hard way, wait until you hear about what happened with another NBA enforcer. Larry Bird wasn't just known for his shooting, he was a master of trash talk and clutch moments. And in 1987, one of his most legendary moments came against a player who thought he could outmuscle the hick from French Lick. Boston Celtics were facing the Seattle Supersonics in a regular season matchup. Xavier McDaniel, nicknamed X-Man, had built a reputation as one of the league's toughest players. Known for his physicality and fiery attitude, McDaniel wasn't afraid to mix it up with anyone, even Larry Bird. Throughout the game, McDaniel tried to outmuscle and intimidate Bird, throwing in plenty of trash talk along the way. But Larry Bird didn't just take the bait, he set the stage for one of the most memorable moments in NBA history. The game was tied, and the Celtics had the ball with only a few seconds left on the clock. Everyone in the arena knew who was getting the ball, but before the play even started, Larry Bird made his intentions crystal clear. He walked up to Xavier McDaniel, looked him dead in the eyes, and said, "I'm going to get the ball right here. Shoot it in your face."
I said, "I know, I'm gonna be waiting." And he said, "I'm gonna get it right here. I'm gonna shoot it right in your face."
And just like that, Bird backed up every word. He got the ball, dribbled to his spot, and launched a contested jumper right over McDaniel. The ball swished through the net, and the Celtics crowd erupted. But Larry wasn't done. As McDaniel stood there stunned, Bird turned to him and added one final dagger. "I didn't mean to leave 2 seconds on the clock."
He came out with about that exact spot and shot a shot right in my face. And he was like, "I didn't mean to leave 2 seconds on the clock."
This moment didn't just cement Larry Bird's reputation as a clutch performer, it was a masterclass in psychological warfare. McDaniel had tried to intimidate Bird, but by the end of the game, it was McDaniel who had been outplayed and outsmarted. And for Bird, it was just another night at the office. If you thought Xavier McDaniel's lesson was brutal, wait until you hear about the time Larry Bird went head-to-head with an NBA legend. This time, it wasn't just trash talk. It turned into one of the most infamous fights in NBA history. Let's rewind to 1984 and Larry Bird's clash with none other than Julius Erving. The rivalry between the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers was one of the most intense in NBA history. And at the center of it were two superstars, Larry Bird and Julius Dr. J. Erving. But on November 9th, 1984, things went from competitive to explosive. That night, Bird was unstoppable. By the third quarter, he had already dropped 42 points, dominating the game in every possible way. Meanwhile, Julius Erving, one of the greatest players in NBA history, was struggling, managing only 6 points. And if that wasn't frustrating enough for Dr. J, Larry Bird didn't hold back his trash talk. Reports from the game suggest that Bird taunted Erving with lines like, "You're washed up," and "You should just retire." And with every shot Larry hit, the frustration boiled over for Dr. J. Finally, the tension reached a breaking point. After a hard foul on Bird, the two stars got into a heated exchange. But this wasn't just a shouting match. It quickly escalated into an all-out brawl.
And Moses Malone takes Bird down. He's got him in a headlock.
Here's Moses. Wait a minute.
It's Barkley.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. And look at it.
Jay hitting Bird as he's being held from behind by Barkley and Moses.
The scene was pure chaos. Both benches cleared, players and coaches tried to break it up, and punches were thrown on both sides. Bird and Erving were eventually ejected from the game, and the NBA handed out fines for their roles in the fight. But even in the chaos, one thing was clear. Larry Bird had already won the mental battle. He had dominated the game, gotten under Dr. J's skin, and left an impression that would be talked about for decades. This fight wasn't just a physical altercation. It was a moment that symbolized the intensity of the Celtics-76ers rivalry, and Larry Bird's ability to take over a game both physically and mentally.
I was up 38-6. That's how I summarize it.
For Julius Erving, It was a rare moment of frustration. For Bird, it was just another reminder of why he was one of the toughest competitors the NBA has ever seen.
They got that master man there trying to find open people.
See Sting, and the 24-second clock goes down, and Bird.
The rivalry between the Boston Celtics and the Detroit Pistons in the 1980s was more than just basketball. It was a war. At the heart of the Pistons' physical style of play was Bill Laimbeer, a player notorious for his rough fouls and dirty tactics. And if there was one player Laimbeer loved to target, it was Larry Bird.
Got it back, so they reset it at 5. Laimbeer walked with it, then committed a foul, knocked Bird to the floor. Celtics are very unhappy about it.
Yeah, caught Bird in the jaw.
Yeah.
And Larry's a little upset.
During one of their matchups in 1985, Laimbeer delivered a particularly hard foul on Bird, a move that left the Celtics star on the ground.
They got that master man there trying to find open people.
See Sting, and the 24-second.
It was classic Laimbeer, physical, unapologetic, and designed to send a message. But if there's one thing you don't do, it's try to intimidate Larry Bird. Instead of backing down, Bird decided to respond the best way he knew how, by taking over the game. And that's exactly what he did.
Bird with 35, make it 37.
With the game on the line, Bird made the kind of play only he could, drawing the defense and delivering a perfect pass to Dennis Johnson for the game-winning basket. The Celtics pulled off a dramatic victory, and Bird's poise under pressure was on full display.
Now, the Boston moment, that was a heartbreaking moment. What was heartbreaking about that moment is I had made the game-winning shot.
Charity in the call. They're going to give the ball to Detroit. Bird steals it. Johnson, layup, Boston, 1 second left.
Larry Bird didn't need to trade words with Laimbeer. His actions spoke louder. Moments like this defined their rivalry and proved that no amount of physicality could disrupt Bird's focus or his ability to lead his team to victory. The bad blood between Bird and Laimbeer would only grow in the years to come as the Pistons eventually overtook the Celtics in the Eastern Conference. Larry Bird wasn't just about trash talk and rivalries. He thrived in the biggest moments, especially when the stakes were high. And in 1988, he delivered one of the greatest performances of his career in what's still remembered as one of the most epic playoff duels in NBA history. The 1988 Eastern Conference semifinals between the Boston Celtics and Atlanta Hawks was already a thrilling series, but when it came down to Game 7, all eyes were on the two stars, Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins. The Celtics were fighting for their legacy, and the Hawks were looking to make history. Dominique Wilkins, nicknamed the Human Highlight Film, had made it clear he was ready to lead the Hawks to victory. And with his incredible scoring ability, he was determined to prove he could outshine Bird on the biggest stage. But Bird wasn't about to let that happen, not in the Boston Garden. With the game on the line in the fourth quarter, the two superstars went head-to-head in one of the most intense duels in NBA history. Wilkins was phenomenal, scoring an incredible 47 points and putting on a show for the ages. But when the pressure was at its peak, Bird rose to the occasion like only he could. In the fourth quarter alone, Bird dropped 20 points, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, fadeaways, contested jumpers, and impossible mid-range shots. Everything was falling for Larry Bird, and with each basket, the crowd got louder, and the momentum swung further in Boston's favor. Every time Wilkins tried to respond, Bird had an answer.
Between the two of them.
It's Bird's turn.
It was a duel for the ages. Two players refusing to back down, delivering one iconic moment after another. When the final buzzer sounded, the Celtics had pulled off a dramatic 118-116 victory, advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals. Bird finished the game with 34 points, but it wasn't just the numbers. It was the way he took control when it mattered most that made this game legendary. Dominique Wilkins himself would later admit that while he gave everything he had, Bird's performance that night was on another level.
If you wasn't prepared to play against guys like that, you got embarrassed.
It wasn't just a win for the Celtics. It was a reminder that in the clutch, Larry Bird was untouchable. Larry Bird's career is filled with moments of dominance, but when it comes to rivalries, none was more iconic than his battles with the Los Angeles Lakers. And in one particular game, even a legend like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar couldn't escape Bird's wrath. Let's dive into the story of how Larry Bird turned the tables on the Lakers captain. The 1980s Celtics-Lakers rivalry defined an era of basketball. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were the faces of their teams. But behind the scenes, battles between other stars like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar added to the drama. In one particularly heated game, Kareem decided to send a message the old-fashioned way, with a hard foul.
Bird, foul. Kareem beside himself after Jess Percy blew the whistle.
It was a physical game with both teams fighting for every possession, and at one point Kareem delivered a hard foul on Bird that sent him crashing to the floor. The message was clear. Kareem wanted to intimidate Bird and shift the momentum in the Lakers' favor. But Larry Bird wasn't the kind of player to back down. Not to Kareem, not to anyone. And instead of getting even with his fists, Bird decided to get even where it mattered most, on the scoreboard. From that point on, Bird went on a tear, hitting shot after shot over the Lakers' defense. Kareem, Magic, and the entire Lakers squad could only watch as Bird single-handedly took over the game. The Celtics went on to win the game, with Bird leading the charge. His performance that night wasn't just about skill. It was about toughness, resilience, and sending a message. No matter how hard you hit Larry Bird, he'll always hit back harder. So, which moment was your favorite? And which other player would you like to see a video about?